All right, yeah, LinkedIn's not going to work. They have a restriction on there right now where you can't go live unless you've got a certain amount of consistency. Okay. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to our first episode of the I Love Annuities podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah Conger. I have my sidekick, the man with the master plan, Steve Rosewell. How are you today, Steve?
I'm well, Jeremiah. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Doing great, doing great. It's a sunny day in Florida, a little bit overcast, but looking like it's going to be a pretty nice day, minus some rain that might be coming in this afternoon.
It's still paradise.
So first, we want to kick off our first episode of the I Love Annuities podcast. Thank you for those that are joining, and we really appreciate the support for you tuning in. Today's episode is going to be discussing the basics of understanding annuities. We're going to take a deep dive into the 4 or 5 different types of annuities on the market and just give you a very surface level explanation of the different types of annuities that could potentially serve you in retirement, what their features and benefits are, and ultimately help you have some clarity and confidence in making a decision down the road if one of these annuities may be right for you. Before we do that, I'd like to first introduce ourselves a little bit more formally for those of us that aren't familiar. My name's Jeremiah Conger. I am a licensed health, life, and annuity agent in the state of Florida, and we serve all 50 states. I am the Chief Executive Officer of AnnuityAssociation.com, and our mission is simple. It's to bring full transparency to create a better annuity buying experience for you as a customer. Annuities in general sometimes can seem complex, so our goal and job behind this podcast and overall as a company is to bring simplicity and understanding to help you make an informed, educated decision. We're passionate about what we do. We're passionate about annuities. We do feel that they have a place in most retirement portfolios, and our job is to prove that argument and show you how they can be a very powerful tool if used appropriately in retirement. I have my sidekick here, Steve Rosewell. He's also a mentor of mine. I'd like to pass it over to him so he can tell you a little bit about himself.
Great. Thanks, Jeremiah. So I'm going to spend a minute or two giving you a little bit of what my reason for doing what I do. And hey, Jeremiah, let me ask you, have you ever had a disaster in your life, one that pretty much turned your life upside down?
Absolutely.
I think we all have. Well, I definitely had one, and it changed my life. And it was the experience that I went through from this disaster that actually led me to where I am today. And it helped define my true calling. And it's central to shaping the understanding of the value that I actually have and how I can use the value that I've created over a number of years and use it to help other people. So as Jeremiah said, I'm Steve. My actual full name is Steve Rosewell, and I'm 65 years old. And my disaster started back in 2006. I myself thought I found the secret to market timing. I thought I was going to make a bloody fortune. And I thought, why not? I understood technology. I thought I was a genius. I guess I wasn't. I really understand mathematics, economics, market trading, technologies, process engineering. I've had a very colored past, and I was a huge stock and options trader with a huge Wall Street firm. I created an internet company from scratch back before Bill Gates even thought the internet was going to work. He thought it was a fad, and I've created processes for the largest defense contractors in the world. So by definition, I'm supposed to kind of understand it. So Jeremiah, let me ask you a question real quick. Have you ever heard of the word algorithm?
I have.
Yeah, that's that word that they use that it basically talks about how you put complex math formulas together, and they gave it a term and a nickname called algo. Well, I set out back in 2006 with a couple PhD buddies of mine, and we were going to use a set of scientific formulas to find pattern recognitions. And we thought if we did this and we coded it all up, that the money would just come knocking on our door. And I'll tell you something. It's 12 years later, and I'm a couple $1 million poorer because it costs a lot of money to do what I do. And I realized that I just wasn't that smart. Now, for the record, Yeah, the algo worked. I mean, it averaged over 18% a year for the last 3 years, and it was all audited returns, and we never had a down year. So what I did is I said, hey, let's go ahead and create a hedge fund. And by the way, that's no easy task. So I created a registered investment advisory organization, set out to be a money manager, and quickly found out that people didn't want it, that the world had changed. And it had changed because this thing called passive investing became vogue. And the last thing anybody wanted was to talk to another supposedly smart guy that could give them another active management strategy. So understanding the math, understanding the markets, understanding the technology process, some planning. Truthfully, Jeremiah, it all means nothing unless you can find a place to use it to help other people, not yourself. And that's the lesson that I learned. I had to learn how to take all this knowledge I had amassed over my life and use it to help other people. So if you're not self-serving and you're learning how to serve other people, which only took me 63 years to figure out, that's the lesson in life that I learned. Now, here's another interesting thing when I was thinking back several years ago before we got together, and this is another part of the story. So my mom in 2007 was on one of her bucket list trips. She had a trip to Africa. And I told my mom, I said, look, go out, go have a good time. And when she was in Africa, she suffered a small stroke that led to, the progression of even more severe strokes. And the next thing you know, she went from home to a long-term care facility in literally just a matter of months. And I remember watching her totally stress out when the markets crashed in 2008. And she was all upset because the cherished nest egg she had, she was convinced that she was wiped out. And I had to convince her, sit down and say, no, Mom, you're fine. You're going to be fine. We did this thing 15 years ago. Let me talk you in to doing a couple of things like buy annuities, buy long-term care insurance. And what ended up happening is that little did she understand what they actually were, what they were designed to do, but she had lifetime guaranteed retirement income that paid all her bills. And when she actually passed away a few years later, there was even a little bit left over for the kids. But the point is that I took the two data points of I'm an analyst, I'm an analytics professional. And I took that knowledge along with what I realized, how I really helped my mom, and said, look, there's like 10,000 people a day that are retiring or soon to retire. And most of them have no idea how to plan for retirement because the world is all set up about how to do financial planning, not about understanding things like the longevity of your retirement plan. So I put together all this set of algorithms and mathematics to be able to actually help people understand what they want to do. And that's why I pivoted my registered investment advisory firm. And fortunately, I was lucky enough to find you, and we've set down this path to really help people understand the highest and best use of their assets and the longevity of their retirement plans. So that's my passion. That's what I do. That's why I'm here today. That's why we're putting these webinars together and these podcasts together. And I hope everyone enjoys them.
Yeah, that all makes sense, Steve. Thanks for giving us some ideas and about who you are as a person, how you've gotten to this point in your planning career. I mean, you date all the way back to 1980, starting out on Wall Street, and so you've seen a thing or two when it comes to understanding planning, not just from a financial perspective, but also mitigating risks. I think you have a very strong background in that. I don't even think we have enough time on one podcast to cover that. But, it kind of gets back to how you and I connected and got together on this venture. And, I'll be honest, I started as most young bucks or greenhorns in the financial services industry. I started out in life insurance, and I was pivoting from a career in the wireless industry. I had owned and operated several retail stores with T-Mobile and Sprint throughout the United States. And, I was looking for a change. I was looking for a career. I was looking for something that I could get behind that would allow me to help people. I've always been passionate about helping people. I've always been real big on trying to, give value and improve people's lives. And that's really what I was passionate about in the wireless business, was because I managed a team of over 40 individuals, and it helped me instill leadership in those people. Oftentimes they were younger than me, and allowed me to give them some, just some foundational principles to help them get their career kick-started like someone did to me. So as I was in that transition phase, looking for a new industry, I knew I wanted to take on a challenge of doing something that I'd never done in the past. And I don't know if you've ever been looking for a new job, especially in the last handful of years, but you get hounded when you put your resume on, LinkedIn or Indeed.com or Monster. You get just bamboozled by a ton of different companies, but ones that stand out the most, or that tend to be the most aggressive, are those life insurance companies. And initially, when I first saw, life insurance, I said, no way, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy going to the family events and trying to sell my relatives life insurance policies. It wasn't for me. I didn't think that was something that I would enjoy doing. But as time kept going by and I wasn't having a lot of luck finding a new opportunity, and I took a deeper dive into what life insurance was about. And I took a look at a specific organization and what they had to offer. And it was all about selling life insurance policies as part of a holistic plan to complement someone's retirement, or, the early stages of their life when they're buying their first home or they're having their first children. And I sat long and hard. I had an interview with the company. I had sat there long and hard after that interview to decide, was this something that I could really get behind? Because at the end of the day, I believe that we have to do something we're passionate about. We have to do something that we feel gives us more purpose and more meaning. And when I took a look back at life insurance and what it did, and I learned more about the role that it plays in someone's overall financial plan, it really struck a chord with me. Because, I look back at my family personally to see, has anyone ever had life insurance that I know of? My parents, my grandparents, aunts, uncles. The answer to that was no. However, the more I looked at it, the more I felt they should have, specifically speaking, my grandfather, who passed away at the age of 60 years old unexpectedly from a massive heart attack. He was 60 years old. This is back in 1990, so I was only 3. And he was scuba diving in the Gulf of Mexico with 2 of his sons. We're all avid fishermen, boaters. That's really all I've ever known, is being around the water or on the water fishing and doing that. But anyways, he was underwater about 90 feet deep and had a massive heart attack underwater. And he signaled to my uncle Scott that, he was having some complications breathing. And they ended up taking him up to the surface. They radioed the Coast Guard, and they ended up taking a helicopter. They were over 60 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
He went in one of those carriage things. They held him, lifted him up to the helicopter, and he ended up passing away on the way to the hospital. So I get choked up just talking about it. But, really that was a huge, obviously, impact on my family. Not only from an emotional perspective, but from a financial perspective. You see, he was an entrepreneur. He owned a garage door business in the greater Tampa area, and he had done pretty well for himself. He was approaching retirement, and the goal was to pass the business on to my father, who was only he must have only been 23 or 24 years old at the time. And the goal was for my dad to take over the business when my grandfather retired. And that was going to be a few years down the road. My grandmother, after he passed away, my grandmother was left with a pretty decent sized house on the water. They had 8 children total. A few of them were still living at home at the time that he passed. And it really just changed her life. And from there, she kind of had a spiral downward. They did not have a financial plan. They did not have life insurance. They had some money in the bank. They had this real estate, and he also had some commercial holdings. But when it came down to it, without having a full financial plan that included all of those assets and holdings, my grandmother had no idea what to do. And on top of that, she had to manage the household and her emotions. And she went through a depression-like state for several years after that. And long story short, she ended up losing everything. She lost the house that was, worth a significant amount of money. She lost all of the commercial properties. She fire sold some of them, so she didn't get as much money as she could have. And when it came down to it, it comes back to the basics of financial planning. It's planning. And the fact that they did not have a plan or life insurance that could have played an important role in, filling that gap that was lost from the income of the business. Not to mention my father was just too young and green behind the ears to take on that type of business all by himself. And that ended up hitting us directly. We ended up filing bankruptcy when I was young, and we lost our piece of property that we were building a new house on. So it just ended up being a domino effect. So that got me passionate about the life insurance industry. And then as I started working in that industry and helping people and figuring out that, hey, I really enjoy this, I want to take it to the next level, I started to learn about other financial tools and building a plan, because life insurance was part of that plan. That's what we were trained to do, is to fill life insurance into the overall plan to help it meet any gaps that there could potentially be. And I started learning about annuities. And people were asking me if I offered annuities. And at the time in the beginning, I didn't know much about them. But when I learned about what they did and how they could be used the right way, it just, a light bulb went off in my head, and it said, why aren't more people using these? And the fact is that many people are, but there's still a large, percentage of population, specifically baby boomers, that just don't understand annuities enough to make a decision if they're right for them. But through math and science and our research that we've done the past few years, Steve, we really can show that annuities are right for most retirement portfolios. And it doesn't matter if you have $200,000 saved up or, $10 million saved up. We've been able to show people using math and science that annuities are the answer for most scenarios.
Jeremiah, I appreciate you sharing that story. That was very emotional and passionate, although it's reality. I want to spend just a second here and tell you a little bit about what I learned back when I got out of college. I graduated in '80, went directly to Wall Street. So I was a greenhorn, and I found out that people are driven by three forms of emotion: greed, fear, and regret. And the other interesting thing that I found out is nobody liked life insurance. Nobody liked annuities. And being a stockbroker, and back in the day, a stockbroker, woo, you were the guy. Back then, we had to do our own financial analysis. I'm one of those guys that actually had a slide ruler when I went to college, and we actually had some handheld calculators when I actually became a stockbroker. But I was constantly in the top five people worldwide with one of the largest brokerage firms, and so I come from that financial Wall Street background, and it was like, hey, insurance is bad, annuities are bad. And then I watched what happened in 1987. I watched people totally go bonkers because they lost so much money overnight. And that led me to sell out of the Wall Street promise. And I actually started my own broker dealer back in after '87. And what did we do? All we did was retirement planning and estate planning. And all we did was sell insurance and sell annuities. And the reason why we did that is because we found out that once we went through a process of education, that it made sense economically. So that's where I actually started honing my skills that we practice today. And we found the best resources as far as tool sets to be able to help folks. But you really need to get back to the basics and just generally understand. So I think probably the best place for us to get started, Jeremiah, is let's go through a little education process and start out with there's basically 5 types of annuities. So why don't you go ahead and pick up from there and talk about some of those annuity types, and I'll talk about a few of them so we can begin letting people understand what the difference of all these different types of annuities are and where they're best to be used. So
Sure.
why don't you go ahead and get started?
So before we get started there, I do want to make sure that we're all on the same page and understanding that annuities are not for everyone. However, when you understand what they do and the different types of annuities and their features and benefits, there's a strong argument that can be held that, some type of annuity of the 5 could probably be a good fit for you. I also want to make sure that we're clear and transparent that when we're working with clients on annuities, and more specifically on their retirement plan and income plan, that we're never recommending for someone to put every dollar they have into an annuity or various annuities.
That's right, Jeremiah. We came up with that one phrase that we say when we try to make sure people understand when it comes to annuities and life insurance, by the way, because life insurance should also find its way into a retirement portfolio in certain circumstances. But the question is, what type and how much to be able to bring the maximum benefit to the overall plan? And that's something that we really try to drive home with the clients that we work with.
Yeah, and the philosophy that we use a saying in our client meetings. It's as little as possible, but as much as necessary.
Right.
Determining how much to put into an annuity, and as little as possible and as much as necessary. And we say that because an annuity is just a tool. It's just a tool to use. It's like building a house. When you build a house, you hire a general contractor. And that general contractor, he's not a subject matter expert in every part of building that home, but he will find the right people and the right tools to fit into the overall job to build that blueprint, build that foundation, build that framework. And an annuity in a retirement plan or a retirement framework is just a tool, and it serves a purpose. It mitigates several risks that retirees face, and we're going to educate you guys on that as we go down the road here in our podcast series. But again, it's as little as possible and as much as necessary, and we'll elaborate on that a few episodes down the road. But today is all about Annuities 101. It's about taking your IQ of annuities to a higher level. And we're going to just be diving into the basics of annuities and discussing the 5 types and what their features and benefits are to help you get some more clarity on, what annuity is right for you. I think annuity is an often misunderstood word. I think also that there's a lot of negative connotations that go with the word annuity, and we're here to debunk those myths and those negative connotations. And but it's going to start with just talking about basics of annuities. So there's 5 different types. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for those viewing us live on Facebook or YouTube. But there's 5 different types of annuities, and this chart here will help you understand the various types and what they do and how they work. But the word annuity stems back to thousands of years ago. Annuities have been around since the Roman ages, the Roman times. An annuity means a lifetime of payments. That's all it means. You trade value for a lifetime of payments. Now back then, value could have been other things than money, but in today's day and age, you're trading a premium, a value of money for a lifetime income stream. That's the basics of an annuity. So the traditional annuity, or the oldest form of annuity, is called an immediate income annuity, and it's very simple. In exchange for a premium or your investment, the insurance company or the issuing annuity company will guarantee a payment for life every single year for as long as you live. Now, these income annuities, these immediate income annuities, can be customized. They can be set up to cover a single life. So if you're not married or don't have a spouse and you just care about covering your own means, you can structure it with single life, but they also have the ability to structure them as joint. And that is where it'll cover you and your spouse's life, or you and a close person that lives in your household's life, so that you can ensure that regardless of how long you live, if one of you happens to die early, the income stream continues on for the second person's life. Now, these income annuities can also be customized from a time perspective. They don't all necessarily have to be designed for lifetime. They can be formatted and structured to pay out for a certain amount of years. That is more rare these days in planning for annuities, to use those for a certain period of time. Usually lifetime is the go-to way, but it's very simple. In exchange for your dollars, they're going to give you a guaranteed payment for life, backed by the insurance company and their ability to pay for that horizon. So when you're looking at income annuities, you definitely want to look at strong rated companies, ones that have proven track records. The next type of annuity is another income annuity. It's called a deferred income annuity. And it's basically the same structure as immediate, but the keyword with deferred, meaning you're going to exchange a premium or an investment amount. However, you're going to defer the income stream to a later date. So these are commonly used for people approaching retirement, and they're in that retirement red zone, which is, approaching within 10 years of their retirement date. They may want to secure a guaranteed lifetime income stream and have it grow safely during that period of time that they're still working until they become retired, and deferring that income stream on when it's actually activated. So you might defer it 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, but you have the ability to turn that income stream on at a later time. But the nice benefit of a deferred income annuity is that it's growing at a guaranteed rate every single year until you turn it on. So very, very popular income annuity there on the deferred side. Next, the third type of annuity is the traditional fixed annuity, or what is commonly referred to nowadays as the multi-year guaranteed annuity. The multi-year guaranteed annuity is basically the insurance industry's answer to the bank certificate of deposit. It functions very much so like a bank CD, where it's a time deposit. You're going to invest a certain amount of money, and inside that investment, or in that contract that you're getting for that investment, the insurance company or the issuing annuity company is guaranteeing a fixed rate of growth every single year for that duration of the contract. So it works very similar to a bank CD. They do offer the ability to convert those to income streams down the road, but it's not very common. Usually when people are looking at a fixed annuity, or what is called a MYGA, they're just looking to use them as a CD alternative. So very simple there, very easy to understand. And that's the nice thing about it, is that annuities, so a lot of people say they're very complex, but when you really break them down and you break down the intended purpose, they're rather quite simple.
I think that's a key point, Jeremiah. It's the purpose. It's trying to find out with the client, what is the purpose of the annuity? And those three annuities that you spoke about, we call it the SPIA, the immediate, the deferred income, the DIA, and the MYGA. They all have contracts and they all have guarantees, and they're great vehicles. The question is, which one to use, how much to use, and what purpose do you use it? Now I'm going to talk a little bit for a minute about the fourth type of annuity, and this is probably the annuity that's given the word annuity kind of a bad name, because there's risk associated with this annuity, and it's called the variable annuity. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it is it ties back into the markets. So when you buy a variable annuity, first reason is, why would you buy it? Well, most folks that buy variable annuities are buying it during their accumulation phase of their life. So they're willing to assume a higher level of risk associated with either the stock markets, the bond market, or a combination thereof. And when you look at the structure of the variable annuity, it actually has this wrapper called an annuity, which allows for tax deferral. And then you tuck in these mutual funds inside of that wrapper. So you're subject to the risks of those marketplaces of going up and going down. And the other thing that's interesting about the variable annuity is there's a lot of cost and a lot of overhead that's associated with being able to do just that. Build the wrapper, input the mutual funds, and then manage the mutual funds. So what we end up finding is that the fees that are associated with variable annuities can be very, very high. In fact, when people say, oh, there's fees on annuities, well, I'll tell you, there are fees on variable annuities, but I'll also tell you that those three annuities that we talked about earlier, Jeremiah, there aren't any fees associated with those particular annuities. So it becomes a question again of how the media is telling you about annuities and the fees that are associated. Now, Jeremiah, spend a couple minutes and talk about what I think is like the neatest type of annuity. These fixed indexed annuities that make out the fifth annuity. Why don't you tell the folks a lot about those? Because boy, they have a lot of features and a lot of benefits that can really help, especially in retirement planning.
Yeah, so as the annuity industry has evolved over the years, the insurance companies and the designers and builders of these annuities all came together, and they wanted to include an annuity that would basically include all of the features of the aforementioned annuities that we've just discussed to give customization, flexibility, and optionality in the overall product. So that led them to the design of what is called or referred to as a fixed indexed annuity. When it first arrived on the scene back in 1995, they were actually known as equity indexed annuities. So if you've heard of that, a fixed indexed annuity is what they're referred to as of today. And they're really a hybrid of sorts of all of the aforementioned annuities when it comes down to the features and the benefits that are offered inside them. We're big advocates of fixed indexed annuities. I know that there's some people out there that may not be on the wagon just yet, but when you dive into what they do and how they do it and why they can be a very powerful tool when it comes to retirement planning, a fixed indexed annuity is really going to pique your interest. But the basics of a fixed indexed annuity is that they can be used as a safe accumulation vehicle. So we'll first start with that. So when you're looking at a fixed indexed annuity, the first strategy in using them is safe growth.
I'm going to write that down, Jeremiah. That's a good point.
Thank you. So safe growth, the features that offer an opportunity to grow your money safely with no market risk is the contract will state that the annuity has a 0% guaranteed floor. The indexed annuity, the indexed word, derives from the strategy behind how your money grows. So in each of these contracts and each of these indexed annuities, there's going to be a market index or various market indexes and different strategies and crediting methods that are tied and associated with the growth side of the annuity. So depending on the index and the strategy behind it, if the market index that you're tied to performs well for a given period of time, whether it be a 1-year period or sometimes nowadays there's 2-year periods, during those time frames, they'll look at the growth of the index and then credit your money, your assets inside the annuity based on the rules for the participation rate or the cap or spread rate built into the annuity contract. So for example, let's say that you're in an annuity that offers the S&P 500, okay? And it's giving a 50% participation rate. And in that given year, you're in a 1-year crediting strategy. At the end of the year, the S&P 500 went up 10%. Well, you simply do the math of the participation rate, which is 50%, meaning you can participate in 50% or half of that 10% growth. Your account would be credited 5%. In addition, in the event the very next year, your index, the S&P 500, has a down year where it goes down 10%, you need not to worry. Your credited interest from the year before has been locked in. So your 5% growth is locked in. And that year that you're seeing the loss of 10%, your dollars are actually staying right where they are, including the locked in interest from the year before, because of that 0% guaranteed floor. They offer principal protection inside these annuities. So they're ideal for people that are approaching retirement. They have a nest egg that they've worked really hard to build. And one of the most detrimental things to someone approaching retirement can be a market loss. So it's a very smart strategy to consider moving a portion of your nest egg into a vehicle like a fixed indexed annuity to shield those dollars from negative impacts of the market.
Great explanation. Jeremiah, we ought to put together a class just specifically on the fixed indexed and dealing with the growth side of the fixed indexed annuities. Now, there's another side that we work with from time. That's the income side, and these guaranteed lifetime income riders that are a real benefit to these fixed indexed annuities. And can you spend a minute or two talking about that?
Yeah, so the other side of the fixed indexed annuity is the lifetime income component, which is referred to as a lifetime income rider. Now, rider is a word in the annuity industry as a feature. It's basically a feature or an option that you can elect to add to the annuity contract. And inside these lifetime income riders, the nice thing about it is it takes that deferred income component and allows you to maximize the growth on the income benefit base. So for example, let's say you put in $100,000 as a single premium into a fixed indexed annuity with a lifetime income rider. Depending on the product and the company, there's a lot of offerings out there right now where they'll guarantee contractually, which keep in mind, where else in the investment world can you get a guarantee backed by a contract on any sort of growth? The real only place is an annuity. And on that lifetime income rider, the contract will state in that $100,000 benefit base, the longer you defer it, the more it's going to grow. And it'll grow at oftentimes a compounding rate anywhere from, at the time of us recording this podcast, anywhere from 4 to as high as 7% annually. So you can grow that $100,000 if you're planning to use that money solely for income in retirement. You can safely grow it by 7% per year compounded over the next 5, 7, or 10 years, depending on when you're turning it on, and know that it's shielded from market losses. And that's the beauty behind the fixed indexed annuities that we've become very strong advocates for.
So those are really good features. So Jeremiah, I took a note down. I think we're going to need to do a podcast on just fixed index. It shows some examples of some growth and also some income annuity. So let me take just a minute here and just recap what we talked about. So there's 5 annuities, and 4 out of those 5 annuities are very, very appropriate when dealing with retirement and retirement income and retirement planning. And then the 5th one is very, very sound, but it should only be used during the accumulation phase of a person's life, and probably shouldn't be considered during the retirement phase or retirement planning. So let's go through that. The SPIA, or the immediate income annuity, that has a place in retirement income planning. Deferred income annuity, that has a place. The fixed period or the MIGA annuity, that has a place. And the fixed indexed annuity has a place. And you probably want to steer clear of the variable annuity. Or if you have a variable annuity, you may want to roll it into one of these other types to turn on the income streams, because they typically provide a higher income stream if in regard to your overall retirement plan. So that's the way I wrote down the notes in regard to those various 5. Did I get it right?
Yep, you hit it right on the head, Steve. Yeah,
Okay.
You're starting to see over time, the last 10 years, we're starting to see a decline on variable annuity sales in the industry. And really, I think that's from a couple reasons. One of them being, again, they're normally highly feed, anywhere from 3 to 5%. Oftentimes, a lot of those fees are very hidden in the prospectus that you receive if you're buying one. You have to understand the way that the variable annuity works. And again, we could spend a whole hour just talking about variable annuities and how they work, but they're really basically it's mutual funds inside of a wrapper, an annuity wrapper that you're paying fees on for the individual mutual funds. In addition, you're paying management fees inside them. And then they also have that lifetime income component, which there's a fee associated with that as well. So when you add up all the fees, they're anywhere from 3 to 5%. The fastest growing annuity out of all the five we discussed are the fixed indexed annuities, and they're sort of replacing the variable annuity because we're seeing a couple things. We're seeing higher offerings on the guaranteed side of the annuity. And a lot of people like that there's no risk. You have no risk when it comes to the growth side of the annuity with that 0% floor. So having that peace of mind that your principal's protected is very impactful, not only to your nest egg, but also impactful to your state of mind and what we call the psychonomics of retirement planning.
Right. Excellent. So it seems to me that one of our future podcasts, we need to get into the structures of planning and basically getting people to understand the values and the benefits of each of these annuities and how they fit into a retirement plan and what the proper retirement planning process should be, which is to maximize your guaranteed retirement income streams to be able to create that foundation and that house building plan you were talking about earlier. Yeah, I think we need to do a couple of podcasts on that, Jeremiah.
Yeah, so just to get back to what the goal is of the design of Annuity Association, our mission and what we're trying to accomplish with our organization is really bringing full transparency both to the end consumer so that they can really change the buying process. They're going from being sold an annuity to now wanting to buy one because they understand the importance of what they do and the role they serve in their retirement plan. And so as we go down this road of the podcast series, we're going to be taking a deeper dive into how we're adding that transparency to the buying process. We'll be taking a look in depth in the softwares that bring us right to the independent annuity marketplace to help you as a consumer shop to find the best one. And we'll show you how we're helping clients identify if an annuity is right for them, number one. If it is, which type. And then once we've identified the type, we'll help you determine through planning how much you should consider investing into one to meet your goals and needs of your overall retirement. And we've designed a framework. We call it the Retirement for Life framework, which is built on a fiduciary chassis, if you will, where we take a look at the holistic plan and we'll look at everything from A to Z and show you how an annuity can be a very powerful tool complementing your overall retirement portfolio. Steve, I know you didn't mention it because you're a very humble guy, but Steve is a licensed fiduciary. He is a Series 65 license holder. And when we come down to annuity planning and income planning and retirement planning, it's all about finding the right fit and how the tools that we all have in our tool belt, whether it be investments, equities and bonds, other types of alternatives, life insurance, and annuities. It's about building the best plan from a holistic approach, using all of those tools to cohesively work as a very powerful unit. And, so we'll be taking a deeper dive into that planning process that we've developed to help you identify how to use an annuity the right way.
That's right, Jeremiah. I do 65 and just want to point out that other people on our team we have CPAs, we have CFAs, we have CFPs. So we have a very talented team of folks to put together these retirement plans. I'm really excited. I truly appreciate you inviting me to come on today. And I really look forward to building out this series. We'll probably be bringing a couple of our other partners on as we go through some of the areas in our overall podcast series. But this is really, really exciting. This is really good information. As I say, my parting is we want to make our retirees happy, and having a happy retirement doesn't mean they have lots of money, but what they do is they have the money giving them guaranteed income streams so they can go out and enjoy their retirement years and not worry about the markets. This is going to be real exciting. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, Steve. Thanks for your time today, as always. And I'd like to thank our listeners on the I Love Annuities podcast. Signing out, episode 1, Jeremiah Conger and Steve Rosewell. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.